I think you said two things that you made it sound like they were opposites, but they're both true. Like we have to have students learn how to do these things for themselves, but they can't do it without their teachers who also have to do it for themselves. So in the educational world, we call this social and emotional learning, or SEL. And which is a very like in vogue term right now, and people don't really understand what it means. But it's funny that it's like seems so like shiny and new agey, but like we've known for many, many years and decades that all learning is social and emotional. Like if you are in a classroom where you hate your teacher and it feels like a shark tank and everything is just super stressful for you, you're not going to learn as well, even if you are very intelligent, you know, even if you have a lot of capacity for that particular, you know, topic. But in the end, so the opposite is true. You're more, if you feel like you can overcome boundaries, if you're supported as a full authentic person, the reality that you live outside the classroom is, you know, also being recognized and valued in your classroom. All of those things are going to help you learn. Like it's not like a, oh, I wish, you know, I wish that were true, that, you know, if kids were, I'm trying to say three things at once here. You know, I see that like some more old-fashioned people can see that as like, oh, you just want to make the kids happy. Like, no, we don't need them to be happy. I'm not interested in making kids happy. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That's not the goal though. That's not the goal. Like we want them to be themselves. I want them to be themselves. I want them to be confidently themselves. And when they're allowed to be their full selves, not the self that they put on for the classroom, but their full selves, then they can learn better. So they need to build those skills. And just like anything else that can be taught, social and emotional skills can be taught.
Totally.
Teachers also have to have those social and emotional skills themselves in order to teach it. So if they are a hot mess, they have no way of controlling their emotions, they can't regulate themselves, you know, if they can't do that themselves, it's very difficult, maybe impossible for them to teach those things to their students because they can't demonstrate it.
Yes. Whew. So you make me think of a lot of things. Firstly, I'll say, I think it's funny, as you were just explaining that, I couldn't help but parallel it to me. So I think I mentioned I have a son who's 8 years old. And in some ways, you're reading from the script of my life, in which, like, when he was first born, I started to realize, like, not in a minute, like I'm going to make it sound, but like, hey, I'm a hot mess. Like, I can't control my emotions. And then once you start being like, well, I expect you as my child to do that. And then it's like, wait, I'm not, like, you're totally right. Like it's totally true. And it's true that for a lot of people, it seems like kind of a fuzzy, soft thing, but it's in some ways that's so illogical. Like it so underpins every aspect of our life. To think that's not critical is kind of crazy. So I think there's definitely truth to that.
Yeah.
See, let's get philosophical for a second. Because what I think is true is that if everybody could get there, if we could get everybody there to where they could be comfortable being themselves. And that doesn't mean everybody would agree, because that's an important distinction. People could still have tons of disagreements and feel differently. But if everybody's comfortable and they've worked through their shit, then it's like, okay, this can work. Which then says, okay, as an individual, I should do that. Because I should do my part. We all should do that. The risk is, I think, if I do it, you do it, but then most of the other people don't do it, are they kind of at an advantage somehow? Do we set ourselves up for failure because we're playing by a certain set of rules that the rest of society, or at least the majority of it, isn't? And I'd like to think, no, we should still do it. It's still the right thing to do. But it kind of makes the case for why the mask came out to begin with, because we need to protect ourselves from this world, which is kind of dark and scary because people aren't comfortable being themselves. So is it too idealistic? I guess I go back to that same question. What if not everybody does it? Are we still better off doing it ourselves?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And why do you say that?
That one's easy.
That's an easy one.
Because when you do the work yourself, then it's going to give you the skills to deal with and to handle things that come your way. Not 100% of the time.
Sure.
You know, it's like the Objective truth isn't really,
Right.
it doesn't really exist. Perfection doesn't really exist, but it does give you skills to handle these things. And the truth is ever changing, and ourselves, we're always ever changing as we go into different stages of our lives. We become parents, we retire, we, discover new hobbies. Like, we're all changing, and then we have to keep on doing the work. So, things can happen in our lives, like, a tragedy or a big life change, where all of a sudden the skills that you had before to handle whatever comes at you suddenly don't work. Suddenly don't work. You have a chronic illness, and suddenly, the run that you went for every morning that like kept you on the straight and narrow, suddenly you can't do it anymore. And then you need different work to do. So the truth is a constantly moving target. Isn't that funny? And the work is forever. The work is forever.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like, ideally, if everybody did it, that's optimal. But if they don't, you're still better off doing it yourself. I think that's where a lot of people, and again, I tend to project on people, so I should only speak for myself. I think that's what made it hard for me for a while, is what if other people don't do it? Then like that feels like a risk. And it's hard for me to do it because, as you said, it's forever. Like, forever. Like, I got to do this every day. That's what you need me to do. And they're not even going to do it. Like, why do I have to do it then? But you're right. Like, there is a benefit in it. It's just, and to your point, for a 12-year-old or whatever age, for them to make that connection, to think, no, I could see the long term. I'm going to be better off if it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible for them to realize that, because it is hard work. It is hard. And it's not just hard work in like repetition and you have to do it and it takes time. It's emotionally hard work where you have to face stuff potentially about yourself that you're like, I don't like that, or I don't want that to be true.
I call those the icky places.
Yeah.